Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're digging right into the foundation of the world's most popular sport. But hey, we're not just doing a basic rundown of who stands where. No, we're breaking down how the tactical evolution of the last 2 decades has literally rewired the entire anatomy of a football team. Okay, let's dive into this. To a casual observer, a match can kind of look like 22 people just reacting to a bouncing ball across a massive field. But what you're actually watching? It's a highly pressurized, completely intricate system of human coordination. It's basically a machine where space is constantly being manipulated, and honestly, every single movement is calculated with absolute precision. Let's actually pause here for a second and really think about that term, human coordination. When we talk about this on the pitch, we mean absolute, 100% interdependence. Think of it like a giant puzzle. If just one player steps up to press a fraction of a second too late, suddenly a passing lane opens up, the defensive shape fractures, and the whole machine just breaks down. Every single layer has to operate in total sync. They have to read the exact same pressing triggers and cover specific zones to dominate space and dictate the tempo.
So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll look beyond just chasing the ball, and then we'll journey from back to front. We're going to cover reinventing the goalkeeper, the defensive evolution, the masters of the midfield, and finally, the modern forward.
Section 1. Beyond chasing the ball. Let's take a look at how the entire pitch has systematically evolved over time.
All right, let's see how this all builds across the pitch. Every team is essentially built on 4 interconnected layers, right? Goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, and forwards. Today, we aren't just giving you dictionary definitions of these roles. We're looking at how the distances and responsibilities between these specific lines have totally collapsed and transformed over the years. We're going to see how changing one single zone sets off a massive chain reaction across the entire field.
Moving on to Section 2. Reinventing the goalkeeper. Let's start at the very back of our structural machine. Now, what's really fascinating about this shift is the sheer contrast in expectations. Think back, say, 20 years ago. The traditional expectation for a goalkeeper was literally just shot stopping. Your one and only job was to keep that ball out of the net. But today, the modern goalkeeper is basically the team's first attacker. They act as an 11th outfield player. They operate as a sweeper keeper to clean up behind those incredibly high defensive lines. And they actually dictate the tempo of the build-up play with their feet. So they don't just protect the net anymore, they intentionally draw the opposition's press and kick off the entire structural coordination from the very back. It's a real game changer. Which brings us to Section 3, the defensive evolution. Because naturally, when the layer right behind you steps up, well, you have to push forward too. So the absolutely crucial point here is that this wasn't just some minor tactical tweak, not at all. As goalkeepers pushed higher up to become sweepers, the defenders directly in front of them were absolutely forced to adapt. The offside trap became way more aggressive, the backline had to get super comfortable operating much higher up the pitch, often right near the halfway line. This completely reshaped the entire foundation of modern defending. It essentially shrank the playable area and started demanding just incredible spatial awareness. And this brilliantly illustrates the tactical divide. The days of a traditional center back whose only real job was to boot the ball into the stands, yeah, those are essentially gone. The modern defender acts as a vital bridge. They absolutely must be elite ball-playing defenders. They have to be press-resistant, capable of breaking the opposition's first line of defense with a single, pinpoint pass right into the midfield. I mean, they've essentially become deep-lying playmakers. Furthermore, we're now seeing inverted fullbacks stepping directly into the center of the pitch to create numerical overloads. It completely changes how we view the entire defensive line. All right, Section 4, Masters of the Midfield. Let's move further up the pitch and step right into the engine room. So what exactly changed in the middle over the last 20 years? Think about it. If the back 2 layers evolved to become significantly more interconnected and technically demanding, how on earth did the absolute core of the pitch respond to this shrinking, high-pressure space? Well, to survive the modern game's incredibly intense pressing systems, the midfield simply had to become exceptionally fluid. 20 years ago, you had pure aggressive destroyers on one hand and pure creative number 10s on the other, and they operated almost completely independently. Today, those distinct roles have heavily blurred. Modern midfielders have to be master connectors. They're winning the ball back instantly in transition and then processing complex spatial data in a fraction of a second to link the defense straight to the attack. They are required to dictate possession under immense physical pressure. They are, quite literally, the central nervous system of the team.
And finally, Section 5, the modern forward. We've arrived at the topmost layer of our tactical structure.
Let's complete this spatial journey up the pitch. As you'll see, even the ultimate goal scorers were completely transformed by this tactical shift. A traditional forward used to just wait up top, try to isolate a defender, and focus solely on scoring. Simple enough, right? But today's elite attacker is essentially the team's first line of defense. They are tasked with aggressively triggering the high press. And on top of that, they're frequently required to drop deep into the midfield, operating as what we call a false nine. Doing this deliberately drags opposing defenders way out of position, creating massive gaps for wingers to exploit. So, goal scoring, it's now just one part of a massively coordinated effort.
Okay, let's bring this all together. We have goalkeepers acting as sweepers, defenders operating as playmakers, midfielders blurring their traditional roles just to survive the intense press, and forwards initiating the entire defensive structure from the very top. Because of all this, the entire pitch has compressed. The physical distances between players have shrunk, which demands insanely fast decision-making and elite technical skill across the board. The result is the ultimate modern system of human coordination, working flawlessly as one single fluid unit. This right here is why it's not just 22 people chasing a ball, it's an absolute masterclass in spatial dominance.
Which leaves us with a pretty thrilling question to wrap things up. If the sport radically evolved over the last 20 years to become this highly intricate, totally compressed system, what will the next 20 years of human coordination look like? I mean, how much more unified can this machine actually get? Keep that in mind the next time you sit down to watch a match. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep your eyes on the structure, and I'll see you next time.